Okay, so here's the question. And sometimes I don't know if like maybe they're too involved, right? But what is something that you think that you yourself, along with like the guys, because we know you can't speak on every single person, but for like you or maybe guys that wish that your wives understood more when it comes to, you guys being in there, or something that you think that maybe, does that make
So
sense?
yeah, it makes
Okay.
total sense. I understand what you're saying. Um, so we talked about this. Uh, it was one of the things that I loved about you, you know. Uh, but I think that you were just in general understood people, you
Hmm.
know, and not just that, but the love that you had for me understood me more. So, through even till now, I still give you little things so you could see that kind of gives you like an insight of who we are. Because I could tell you, you know what I mean? But you still won't grasp it. You have a visual of how people live in here. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So through that, you're gonna be able to understand. But I don't think that there's anything in particular. Like if you had asked me like that question, I wouldn't be able to answer it. But it's just like not being too judgmental,
Hmm.
you know. But when you love somebody, all that kind of goes out the window, like because it's all love. You know what I'm saying? And you know, people struggle with, uh, drug addiction. People struggle with mental health, and we're not gonna tell you that. Like that is one. That's like you would ask me this question, like, or not even this question, but like 10 years prior to this, I would have not have said, hey, I deal with mental health. You know what I mean? I have mental health issues because we
Right.
all do. It's just the level of it. Um, you know, being a gang member. So those are the three main things. Because we do drugs. You know what I mean? Uh, we do. We are. Uh, you know, um, deal with mental health. We are gang members. Even if you're not gang members, you still have to, put in your own, put in your own work, you know. And if you're not a drug addict, you're gonna try it, you know what I mean. And if you don't do drugs, you're gonna go to, alcohol,
Right.
which is still considered a substance. So I think those are the main three things that a person would want to be you know understood in.
Right. So
Does that
then,
answer your question?
yeah. So, for someone like a wife, though, like maybe going through that with her husband, on alcohol or drugs or even the mental health, right? Like, I don't know, like, how would a wife approach?
Be supportive.
Yeah, like approach it, be supportive.
So so you have to. It's like our children, right? We're gonna give them an allowance, right? And you know a wife is gonna be there, right? Supportive. But there's also an abuse of it too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And what I mean about that is like a man could be abusive in meaning like, hey, well, I need this, I need that, I need this. So how does that kind of like tap into the whole manipulation of like, you know, when they don't, you know, really need all those things, but they're gonna use it to get high and all that. So you have to kind of like give somebody a cap. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to that,
Right.
because you love that person. You wouldn't want him to do drugs. You wouldn't want me to do drugs, right?
Exactly. Right.
Like it would hurt you. It would
Yeah.
like hurt you to like you don't deal with it because I've never put you through that.
Right.
That was in my past. Like I wasn't a drug addict, but I tried it. You know, you were with me when I started drinking heavily.
Right.
And you seen the rabbit hole that we go through, and it affects our marriage.
Right.
You know, so with that, with the drug is, you love the person, you're not gonna stop somebody. You're just not. But it's just, you have to put a cap, or you're just gonna keep getting into, when you put a cap on a person, it's gonna have that understanding of like, okay, well, I could only spend this much.
Right.
It's either you're gonna feed yourself or you're gonna feed your addiction. Now with the mental health, we kind of talked about it because we've been through that. You've been through that with me too,
Right.
and I was not very open to it, but you know, for me, and I'm sure 99.9% of people in here, we kind of like shut down. And I've
Hmm.
told you that. That's why we're able to love our children and understand our children when they go through the mental health crisis. They haven't yet for a very long time, but what I've always expressed was what, like, be there for them, love them. You can't do nothing. You cannot do nothing. You can't go out there and buy me shoes or give me store or any of that sense, or say anything that is gonna get me out of that state of mind. So it's just being there and just being, hey, I love you, you
Right.
know, with the whole mental just being there like, hey, I love you, and giving that person that space, but also do not allow it to go too far into you know, months and weeks, and like, no, you just can't do that.
Right. So like how you were saying about like with
And
like drug addiction and a cap. I think a lot of wives probably want to put a cap, but then you have your husband who you love who is he's not going to be happy with that cap. You know what I mean? So it's like
of course not,
then
but
then what?
I mean, you have to be understandable. You have to understand that person, and it's like, it's like, would you allow yourself for me to be like, hey, I need this, I need that, I need another 100, I need another 100. Are you eventually going to say no, or are you just going to give me the 100?
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to say no cuz I don't got you have to.
Exactly. There's so much that you could give me,
Right.
you know, and at the end of the day, if you don't, what happens? You're gonna use your money that you see. It's just there's so much difference between the person I've become now and who I was. And if I go, back to my old self, I was selfish. Like I would not think about, okay, my family still has um, bills to pay,
Right.
food to grab. Like they still have essentials that they need too, and it's. But then I've always been a person of not even asking you. Like, how long did it take me to even be comfortable? Be like, hey, can I have it? Can I get this? Can you give me this?
Right.
Like, I've always been dependent on myself. I don't need a woman or, uh, you know, family to support me because I have managed to grow out of that. And, dude, you can make money. You can support yourself in so many ways.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, people say that
And if,
a lot that you really can do that and they
bro,
do.
and you see it all on the internet too.
Yeah.
Like there are so many things you can freaking do, literally.
Right.
But so again, when you talked about, something I want to touch on is like you were like, okay, well, of course your husbands or boyfriends are not going to be happy that you're putting a cap. I mean, you're not going to tell him that. I mean, you could be like, hey, like this is all I could do this month. And at the end of the day, it's like the man has to like support that, understand that. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? Like a person that doesn't understand that, like it's selfish. And I could talk about that because I've been there. I've been there when I was, with my past where I was very selfish. Like, well, I can't do it. Well, I don't care. I don't. You're gonna have to find somewhere somehow to figure it out. You need to come. I need to. You need to come up with this $100.
Right.
You know, and that's like, damn, dude. Like, I look at it like, wow, I can't believe I put my family through that. And when you're in that state of mind, it's again like you don't care. Like you're lost, and it's sad to even have a family member go through that. I could not see myself ever doing that. Like, man, and that's why I was telling you, like, you guys are so spoiled now. Like, and I love spoiling you guys like that. But not only do I spoil you guys, like, I love myself more to put myself in situations like that because you put yourself in situations in harm's way. Like, what about if you can't pay?
Right.
So again, is loving yourself and not wanting that lifestyle for you. And when I came to terms and understanding of loving my woman, being faithful to you. I mean, I've never been a cheater. I mean, I've done things that are considered cheat, but uh, you know, love does when there's true love in a relationship, you know what it does. You've been through that. It
Mhm.
changes our whole perspectives. Like I said, I love you so much and my family that I would not want to put you through anything. I mean, we've been through our little storms when I was heavily drinking and, I was dealing with something that I've never dealt ever, uh, you know, again. But I think a lot of it has to be help. You need to get your family member help because the state is not going to do it. And a lot of us, again, and I say a lot of us because I was in that boat too, do not take the time to uh, get a book, get self help. You
Right.
know, a lot of us, especially if you're sitting here doing life in prison, like really sit down and just don't use that as a clutch though. Like I'm in prison, like whenever I ever said that, like I'm in prison, you should understand me. Like, no, bro, no, don't do that. Like, don't do that to your family,
Right. So do you think a
And
lot of guys that I mean, you've always said like, hey, like not everyone has that mindset of just like how to treat your wife and your family and all of that. But do you feel that that's changing? Do you feel that more guys are realizing? Is it a certain age? Is it a certain
oh yeah, it's a certain age, most
yeah.
definitely. It's a certain age, and yeah, well, I tell that to my daughter all the time. Like, even man, like, but I'm, but we've seen facts. Look at Jaylene.
Mhm.
Jaylene's only 21 years old, and her boyfriend's only what 23, 2 years older than him. So I'm not saying that there's not men that you know that are not mature. I mean, is it is it very low percentage? Yes, it is.
Right.
You know, but a person, it's you as a human. It takes us to understand. Like, am I gonna love this woman, or am I in love with this woman, or is it just a pastime,
Right.
or you know, uh, it's a bad stigma. Like, but at the same time, it let's look at it in the other perspective, right? Women that are out there, you know, and they say, okay, well, a person in prison is gonna come home and they're gonna leave you, right?
Right.
That's that's the outcome of it. You gotta understand women too, though. There's a part in women when uh, you know, a woman has been living their whole lives by themselves.
Mhm.
All those years that their man has been gone, or even in our situation where we've never lived together. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? We don't know. We know a little bit. We see how it looks like, but that's just family visit. Those are just hours. Let's try to live months. You know,
Mhm.
weeks, months, years with each other. You are so accustomed to live a certain way, to move a certain way. So, do you ever think about when I come home how it's going to be? You know that I love structure. You know that there's things that I'm not going to be okay with. And that's where if you don't know how to deal with that, you know, a woman's been sitting there living her whole life by herself, moves when she moves, uh, you know, receives the phone calls when the partner calls or the family member calls, right?
Right.
And then you have a whole man that's coming out of prison again with mental health issues, with maybe a drug problem, and you know these things are going to be new. It's going to be
Yeah.
like, what the freak? Like, you both have not seen how you guys live,
Right.
in a 24/7. All you guys see is through the phone calls and through what he tells you and what you tell that man.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So when they come out and they try it out, you know, sometimes it's not meshable. Like, yeah, it's meshable through a 15-minute phone calls, or 30-minute, an hour. Now you have a little bit more time of that communication because we have tablets in our quarters, but we still do not know how we live, you
Right.
know, truly, and that's a lot.
Right.
But again, uh, I would like, man, I'm good. That's too much, because we don't know how to deal with pressure like that.
Right.
So I would be like, man, that's too much. I'm good, like, and I'll jet out, you know. But it's gonna take even us. It's gonna have to take time to really sit down, and we're good about that. We've learned how to deal with it because when we have argue or have disagreements, bro, we will blow up.
Yeah.
We would. I mean, I remember when I would blow up and you would just listen. Now it's like you don't just sit there and just listen. You sit there and you know bicker back, or put your hurt and your pain, what I've caused, and now you bring that to the table, and it's like we're both like uh bumping heads. And that was before Christ, and now that we're learning to put God first, and we learn that again, there are uh people that preach to us, uh it's God that's holding us grounded. And you're gonna need God. You're gonna need God, bro. Like,
For sure.
to be able to understand how to forgive, to be able to understand how to submit, because men don't submit. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Men do not know how to submit. So you have to learn how to submit, and submit to your wife just the same way as women are good to submit to their husbands. You know what I'm saying? Like, but men also need to learn that. I think that's one of the main keywords of relationship, on how to submit.
Well, yeah, because it's a service to each other. Like, that's the thing, because you're putting the other one first before yourself,
Yeah.
and that's in all aspects. And sometimes it's super easy to put someone first, depending on what it is, and then other times you don't want to. You're like, you're about yourself in that moment, and that can be hard sometimes.
Love is beautiful, and when you start taking it serious, again, like, what? Let's backtrack this. Let's go back to when I was 21, right? And being in a relationship with women that I did not know, coming into prison, right?
Mhm.
Meaning, because there's two types of relationships. There's relationships that you knew a woman while being, uh, getting incarcerated. These women, you
Mhm.
know, and then there's women that you meet while you're incarcerated.
Right.
You know, uh, those relationships have been like, uh, you know, before you. I've used to look at them like, man, it's just a pastime, not only for me, but it's a pastime for them too. Like, because I've been through scenarios and situations where I met women, and we're both going at it like, oh yeah, relationship, whatnot. And next thing you know, I go to the hole. There's no more phone contacts. There's no cell phone. There's no contact at all. There's no visits. Next thing you know, they're gone.
Right.
Like you're writing letters and there's no response back. And it's like, okay, this whole time has
Mhm.
been a freaking game. This whole time has been just because I've had a cell phone and you know, you're able to communicate, but you ain't willing to put that hard work in of coming to visit me, seeing me through a glass, taking the time to write letters. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So a lot of us see that as a game too. Like it's just our pastime, and the way that a woman shows you that they're serious, and you went through this. Everything that that we're talking about, you've gone through this with me. You know what
Right.
I mean? And I told you the only time that like, I know that you're special, and I know that God and Grandma sent to me, but this ain't gonna be real until I see you, until you're here in my face. And you recall when I was like, hey, like, did you send that visiting, like, and when whatever, however it was happening, and I wasn't receiving anything, what happened? What did I tell you? I was like, look, I'm good. I'm gonna focus on what I'm focusing on.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? And I had to take that step too, because at the same time, it's like, I wanted something real, if it was real, because I was ready, and I wanted something real, and you know, I wanted to make sure that you were on that page, because I wasn't gonna waste your time or waste my time. But you're not gonna catch a lot of people like that. You know,
Right. And I think
but
that's probably what's hard is like you have, you know, I mean, there's women that are not about that or pretend to be, but you do have women who really are serious, and think that their dude is serious because again, he is doing things that crosses off that thing, right? Like he's consistent, he writes me letters, he's always calling me, I go to his visit, da 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 da. Da. And so they're really believing like he loves me. Like how could he not look at all this? Because out here in the free world, like when a dude isn't interested, really, he's really not gonna text you back. He's gonna ghost you. Like he's not gonna put crazy
right,
effort in you unless he
thank you.
actually wants you. But in prison,
Right,
you have men that actually put in what seems like a lot of effort only to find out like either you weren't the only one or when he came out, he's gone. So there's like
yeah, but
confusion in that.
yeah, but okay. So if a man leaves out of the gate, yeah, I can see that. But if a man comes and he tries it out, and like I said, like, you have to understand, all these years you lived by yourself,
Right,
Renee. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, we had our moment in our family visit. We've had a bunch of times, you know,
right,
but you still don't know. I mean, you do know that you have a glimpse of it, but there's still more to me.
right,
Just like I know that there's still more of you, you know, and it's, and then the stress of, like, again, what about if the man cannot find a job easily? There's a stress on that. Being
Of
able to
course.
feed him, being able to do all these things, like that's stressful. Like
Right.
you have to clothe them, you have to do all that thing. Like you have, that's why it's always good to. That's why I'm very so pushy about like, man, I want to come home and I want to go to a halfway house, or hopefully I could get 2 years earlier so I can go to these groups that are gonna help me establish myself. And that's what women should be supportive to for men that are coming home. It's like, hey, dude, if you need that time to go to a class like those that resource to help you get on your feet, you need to be supportive in that.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And if that man loves you, well, he's gonna be, he's gonna be for you. And if he doesn't, well, I, the time was good. I mean, the time was good. You had a lovely time. Didn't work out. It's not the end of the world. You cannot just that's it and that's the end of the world. No, bro. Like things continue to live. You continue to live. You just don't, you know, shut down and it's just like that's it. I'm done. You
Right.
can't do that. Like, but it's two people willing to work it out.
Yeah.
It's two people that love each other and willing to go through the storm and working it out. That's why you need God. Without God, things are not. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's not gonna happen. I promise you. It'll be hard. It'll be difficult because through God, you will heal from your anxiety, from your depression, from your drug addiction, from everything, bro.
Right. And the women
And
need it too. Like, because we have we have all of our issues that we're bringing as well. You know, it's our insecurities or our hurt or our past or whatever it may be. So you got two broken people coming together,
well,
and
mhm,
again, it would be great if just like, oh, I love him, he loves me. That's love is everything and it conquers everything, but there's so much behind that because again, you have to working on yourself and healing yourself and being honest with things and awkward conversations and it's a lot, and a lot of times people avoid that. They avoid that because it's too painful, or they've just buried it so deep
yeah,
they don't want to think about it, because who wants to go in that negative headspace? Who wants to revisit something you've worked
nobody.
so hard to get away from, and so then in that underlined, you know causes issues. And then you figure, like, you said something that triggered me and it wasn't what you said, but you triggered something that I've been holding on to my past, and now I'm blowing up at you, and you're trying to figure out, like, where did that come from? And it's like 15 years ago when such and such thing happened. And so you're navigating so much. And that's in general. That's not just not prison marriages or relationships. That's anywhere. You got just broken people coming together, trying to navigate through it.
So if you remember, you know, which I'm sure you do, when I was heavily drinking, right? Which
Mhm.
I never do. I was never an alcoholic, but I found myself drinking. I'm not further from a drug addict. Like
Right.
still you're drinking, you're still stimulating, even if you do spice or whatever, that new drug, whatever. Anything that stimulates your mind, you're using to enhance your state of mind, right? Now, that doesn't make you different just because this is stronger or this is weaker or this is synthetic or this is just man made pills, whatever. Now, when I was going through that, I knew that if I did not give myself to the Lord and if I didn't give my life to the Lord, and how many years has that been since
A lot, a
four
lot.
years ago, five
Yeah,
years ago?
4 or 5, yeah.
If I didn't make that decision, we would not be right here. And what pushed me to make those giving myself to the Lord uh, and putting our marriage full center of God has been because of the love that I have for you, the love that I have for my family, because I knew I was gonna lose you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you would always tell me like I'm never going nowhere with the whoop, but I know me. I know how I would have pushed you away. Definitely pushed you away. You know, so because I loved you so much, and I love my family, and I love my career, and I love my calling, my purpose. I had to change because I knew that if I didn't do that, I was going to lose you. Like, and I I was not okay with that thought of losing you, or losing our family or hurting our family. So making that drastic change, and you seen it. I didn't when I told you like we're gonna give our lives to the Lord, with God. I stopped drinking. Like I didn't drink no more. I did not take not one freaking drink. I completely stopped.
Right.
And again, and that wasn't the beginning of a beautiful marriage or whatever. We still went through struggles. We still went through heartaches. I put you through a lot. And, you know, now we're bearing fruit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like now we are literally seeing the bearing of the fruit. Uh, I still have a temper, but I don't get easily angered or get all in my head any longer, like how I would used to.
Right.
You get what I mean? And sometimes I would, even to this day, I still like. Sometimes I think like, man, is she lying to me or is she cheating on me? And you know, it's been a little bit more of a calm because I have God. Like I'm just like, you know what, God, if that's it, you're gonna rebuild.
Yep.
You know,
And I go
but
through that too. And I thank God for God because I have those moments like, oh my gosh, and it can get so scary because you think like this is the person I love more than anything. And the thought of getting played or hurt or cheated on is like, for me, it's like beyond, devastating. But, I have
anybody,
learned to,
that's betrayal.
yeah, at the like the worst when you're like, man, I would do anything for you and
It
I'm
scars
trying to
people
do. Yeah, it really does. And people take it so lightly. It's crazy
for
to me.
years.
Mhm. But, thankfully we have our foundation, which I'm so grateful for because I'm always able to go back to things to get myself back into reality because I can go down a rabbit hole like super bad, but um, I'm able to again get myself out of
Do
that,
you ever
What?
do you ever go back to do you ever go back to our conversations or the things that I tell you? Or is it the fact that I have to like I know sometimes you kind of like and I feel it all the time and I don't know why I don't act on it, but because you've already told me how to every time you're like, "Do you miss me?" And I look at you, my first thought comes like, "Well, why don't you just tell me that you miss me, bro?"
Mhm.
You know? And it's like we kind of like harm ourselves. I think like you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that just causes more harm than any great, you know. And we sit in that negative space instead of being open and be like, hey, this is what's bothering me, or this is what I need more of. Like,
Right. But I think too with that is like, I try to be mindful of like things you're going through. And I know that there's times that you got things going on that maybe a way that I want you to be that you've been at times, you know, the truth is that you may not be able to be that at that moment. And so
so,
again,
so,
it is
so.
huh?
No, go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
it's trying to be like, okay, he's got like all this going on right here. And of
We've
course, if
already
I'm,
talked about this too
well, yeah, we
many
have.
of times, and I've told you what the things that you need to do. Do you recall? No?
You what?
So it takes two people. It says, I told you how to deal with that. You have been taught how to deal with that. I've been expressive on how to deal with that. You just don't use that. You don't use that tool. It's like you have that hammer, but you want to hammer, you want to get that nail with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't work. Like it's going to work, but it's going to be all messed up. Like you are given those, you've been given these tools. And like I've always told you, and I'll make it easy, like simple. It takes two to mingle, right? It takes two to make a baby. So it's you kicking off that mood. You get what I'm saying? It's like if I'm in the mood of something, I always do that. Like I kick it off,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the other person picks it up. It's that simple. It's that easy.
Right.
But you tend to like, I think like, I mean, not just you. We all do it. I'm not saying that I'm I'm innocent from that because sometimes I do stuff like that. I kind of put myself in that way of like hurting myself. Like if we're because we're so broken and so used to hurting, like we want to hurt or something. Instead of like again, you kick it off. Like you spice it up. Like if you feel in a way, uh, if you're feeling a way, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you have done it where it's like okay, let's say sexually, you are um, you, you're hot or you're feeling kind of like sexual, you kick it off. You get what I'm saying? I'm gonna respond to it. Or if I'm feeling that, I'm going to kick it off and say something like, "Oh, whoopty whoop," you know.
Right.
So if you're looking for something for me to give you, it's like, okay, well, kick it off, and I'm gonna follow suit. I'm not just gonna blindly be like, "Oh yeah, oh
Right.
that's how you feel."
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I'm gonna feed back on it, and it's crazy because we've talked about this many of times too. Like, you've been giving these tools. It's like, well, why don't you tell me you miss me instead of saying, "Do you miss me?" No, it's like, "Hey, I miss you, babe." Oh yeah, oh I miss you too, and I love you dearly, and whoopty woo woo. But when you're like, do you? When you, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think
It's just
sometimes you
weird.
kind of want it to come from the other person. Sometimes you want that initiated as well. Like, if
Yeah,
I'm
you
like, I
do.
miss you,
But
I
listen
love
to
you,
what
I
you're
miss
saying.
you, I love
No,
you.
I understand that.
Yeah. So
I
you
understand that.
want it
But
from them.
when you're asking something, you know what I mean? The wrong thing to do is that instead of initiating it first. Does that make sense? Do you see the whole reverse on that?
Well, I do, but I think there's times that maybe I throw it and there may be times you don't always catch it. And so I'll throw it again and then maybe you won't catch it. So then I'm kind
No,
of like,
no,
okay,
you
and then I'll
no,
ask.
you no. The way that you say it, you send this for years, and you know why you say these things. You're like you say, "Do you miss me?"
Mhm.
And I'm just like, my first reaction, you know what my first reaction is? And again, we've had this conversation millions of times. My first reaction, I laugh. That's why I'm like, when I say, before I say I miss you, I miss you. I
Mhm.
do miss you. I laugh. I chuckle. I'm like, okay, because of that. Like, you've been giving the tools to be like, to initiate that. So I'm like, dude, just tell me that you miss me so I can tell you that I miss you. So we could, again, you're setting up the mood.
Mhm.
Instead of asking like, again, I'm not everybody. I'm telling you what I would want from you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've been telling you that for years. You know, and again, like it's the way that you're gonna get my reaction. It's the way that you're gonna get my. But even again, like you still get my reaction when you say that. But my first uh, uh, my first response is a chuckle, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think for me, like, if
And
you were to ask me,
instead of
like, "Do you
saying,
miss me?" Like, I would take it as maybe he just wants some reassurance right now, and I'm just gonna lead into absolutely and just share with you whatever it is. Like, I'm gonna take it like, okay, he wants, he's needing that right now. So let me pour it into him even more than normal, because you're not just gonna ask that for the heck of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would take it. Um, is just like, because sometimes we do need that more than other times. And there's times that, it's just we want that, and I could say I miss you, but if I'm telling you I miss you, that's just me telling you I miss you, and then you're like, oh, I miss you back, or I miss you too. But if I'm like, do you miss me? It is kind of that open door of like, yeah, I miss you. I miss this. I miss that, because it's more of an open ended conversation. But if I'm just like, hey, babe, I miss you, you're just more than likely going to be like, yeah, I miss you too. And if you're needing more than that, sometimes presenting it in that way is like this more of a conversation, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, well, honestly, you know, you don't verbalize that a lot. You text it a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I do text that. I think we both can kind of do that. Because, I'll get more of a text of like, I miss you tremendously. You're the love of my life, all of these things. And then it's on the phone. I mean, if we're on the phone or something, it's maybe not as expressed. But I don't think that's always like a bad thing. But, you know, it's something that I obviously do feel all the time. I tell that to you. I mean, I tell you all the time, I miss you. I tell you all the time, I love you. I could barely text something without I love you 3 times in the I love you, or I miss you. And
Yeah, through
because
text.
it's the
Through text,
truth.
you do that.
It's not,
Yeah,
it doesn't mean less through text though. I'm not meaning it less
yeah. Well, I
through
do that.
text.
I do it every day too.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's just times that sometimes I may want to hear it, or I like, because of course you're gonna like when your husband is mushy with you and just telling you why they love you and how much they love you and what you mean to them. And I'm not someone that you have to do that every day with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. I'm not someone
But I
that's
do.
constantly like nagging or like, you have to do this all the time for me. Not that I would complain if you did, but I'm saying that, there's just times I wanna tap into that softness of you, but I'm also mindful, again, that you could have things going on, and again, we've talked about that switch, like, it's hard to do that switch when if you're going through something in there, and if I'm in the moment that I wanna be mushy, you may not be able to tap into that in that moment, and then I don't wanna make you feel bad or, like, be this thing when it's like, "I got this going on over here, and you want me to stop that to come over here and be softy."
If you are giving a tool to hammer that needle, why wouldn't you want to use the hammer? You're literally are giving this tool,
Mhm.
but you rather use a rock. Why would you rather use a rock
I don't think that
when
it
you
said
have
I'd
a hammer?
rather. It's not about rather. It's again
So
being
if I'm telling
mindful.
you, I mean, so
What?
it's kind of hard. So then, why would you even like, why would that even bother you then? Why would that even be an issue if you're being mindful?
But if I
If
ask
you're being
you
okay
if
with
you
it,
miss me,
you know,
why is that? Why does that seem to be a thing that's not good for you, or like that's not a good thing? If I'm just
it's
like,
not
do you
about
miss me?
it's not about not being good for you. It's about initiating. It's telling. It's like you telling me what what triggers you. Like what turns you on. You know what I mean? Like I mean, verbalize it so I could have a better understanding. So
Mhm.
me telling you this is verbalizing what I need you to do so I could, you know, uh, react to it and understand you and do so.
Right.
How hard is that?
Oh, it's not that it's
That's not
hard.
hard. It's me
No.
verbalizing what I need from you to do so I could do it.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Instead of you, do you love me? Of course, you know I love you. You know what I'm saying? You know I love you, or else I
Right.
wouldn't be here.
Right.
Now, if you are, uh, initiating it, it's like, okay, baby wants that, baby needs that. I'm gonna do it.
Right.
I'm gonna follow suit. I'm gonna pick off where you left off.
Right.
I'm giving you the 101, and you still want to use the 100.
Right.
That makes sense or no?
Yeah.
It's communicating,
Well, I miss
but
you.
and I love you. I love you a lot. I
I
want to
love
see you
you.
so bad.
Me too.
I can't wait for 5 more days.
I know. Is it 5?
I'm
Sunday,
gonna ask
Monday, Tuesday,
Angel.
Wednesday,
Yeah,
Thursday, Friday,
Sunday,
Saturday. Or 6.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 6 days.
Yep. You gotta tell Angel what? Oh, it's come look at the car.
Yeah, I'll take some tomorrow. I'll probably take some tonight
Well,
because he probably
they're
woke up.
going to Beverly Hills. So one of the students that he used to care
I thought
for,
it was yesterday.
no, they're going tonight to dinner in Beverly Hills at the
Yeah.
steakhouse.
All right, so that'll be a good time to tell him that.
Yeah.
So what's another question you wanted to ask me?
Let me think.
Let you think.
I mean, there's a lot, but I want to be careful in certain things because we're putting this out there, and some things may just not be
Be
like.
careful. What?
Well,
What?
like one of the
Just
things, like,
ask and I'll tell you.
okay, so why when a man in prison has a wife that does like love him and does everything like there for him, like literally no matter what, right? Why is there such a division about like the gang coming first no matter what you do? Like a lot of women ask that. They say that there's a lot where they're like his gang will always come
That's a good
before
question.
you. Yeah, and it's like, but I'm more real than the dudes he's like I'm always here,
And
you
you're
know?
right about that, bro. You're right about that. And you and all your friends or every woman and even family members, moms,
Right.
daughters, you could ask Jaylene that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She literally told me, bro, like, were you thinking about me when you did that when that occurred? And I could have been like, yeah, I was thinking about you, but like, no, I was not thinking about you.
Right.
And why do we put the gang before anything?
Yeah.
I think it kind of like boils down to psychologically growing up in a household of, you know, of brokenness, because that's where it starts. Our parents are broken,
Right.
because if they were not broken, we would have mom and dad, but we don't have that. I guarantee you, like, if I go around this whole building, even in this whole prison, and be like, was your dad in your life? there's probably like a 10%, and even that's a lot. There's probably a 5% of men that were raised with their dad, but a lot of us come from those type of broken homes. So, uh, and then our environment. Um, I mean, I've talked to multiple uh, gang members that are generational. Like that's their life. Like that's their tradition.
Right.
It's like, how we have traditions of Christmas, Halloween. We have our own traditions and we want to create our own tradition. Families create our own traditions. So it's like let's say you're born, right? And you're born with two dads or with two moms. Or, let's say, there's another percentage of when people get molested, as kids, what happens to them? They also end up molesting somebody too, you know. So it's the environment that we are raised, brought
Right.
up in. So if it's, you know, you're born into a gang, those gangs have, core values, right? And you've seen it in that movie, Kilroy, where it's like it's us and that's it. And what does that become? That's a big manipulation.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's a manipulation game to benefit them. You
Right.
know, it's like the political structure in America or in any country. Some are dictators. Why do we have dictators? Why do you believe that there's dictatorship? Because they want the power. They want to be, I'm your God and you're going to do what I say. For what? For their own personal gain.
Right.
So when we are born and we, look up to these idols of gang members and bald head tattoos and the style, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. So we have to go into these rules and regulations that we have. It's like when y'all come and visit us, right? There's
Mhm.
rules and regulations. And if you don't follow those rules and regulations, what happens? You're not going to see your loved ones, right?
Right.
So with us is if we don't go through the rules and regulations, we're not going to be gang members. So uh, to be part of a gang, you have to do that.
Right.
So it's that easy. It's not something complicated. It's not anything where it's like, damn, why? But again, we hurt our family in that too, in that process. And but when we grow out of that, we start seeing that, you know, we've been lied our whole life. It's not what it is, you know. But you do find solid people and you build those solid friendships in here with men, you
Mhm.
know. And um, once you start, what again, like another saying that happens here is like, let's say you get life at 15 years old, right? Your
Mhm.
mentality still stays at 15 years old unless you take the time to develop your mind. If you don't take your time to develop your mind, what happens? You're 68 years old or 70 years old and still think like a 15-year old.
Right.
You still haven't. It's child development has to be by two parents. It has to be by your dad and your mom, because your mom can't teach you what your dad teaches you. Your dad can't teach you what your mom teaches you. You
Mhm.
know, and the Bible was the Bible say. You know, so again, like it's not something complex. It ain't something where something's hidden. It's just that's what it is. Until you grow out of that, you'll realize that your family, especially your wife, is your number one. You know, and once you start realizing that you have something higher than yourself, which is God, you know, through God, you will do anything and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand, like, you know, enough to know, like, especially youth that go into gangs when they don't have the family that does become your family. We see it like people on the outside, like that's just a gang, and you know, it's just either gonna land you in the ground or in prison, and that's how it's viewed. But
Yeah,
I do get that that is a family. I do understand on the inside, like with everything you guys go through, like Yeah, you need your family. That is your family. I think it's just, as wives, you just look at it like, dude, they're making, you got to go through this and go through that, and it's a sacrifice that you're doing for them, that you
Right.
lose their
For the
visits
gang.
and you get an extra charge, and now
Yeah.
it's more of your life being thrown away. And then we're here on the outside, like, we're just trying to bring you home. Like, we love you. We would never
Yeah.
ask you to do nothing that would jeopardize you or get you hurt or get you caught up or,
It's crazy, huh?
yeah. And it's like, we
It's
want the good
crazy.
for you, and we want
Right.
the best for you because we love you so much. And you do have your brothers in there that love you, but we're like, dude, they don't, not to the degree we do, because
No.
you know
No,
what I
they
mean?
don't.
And
No, they
that's
don't.
what.
These people don't love you here.
No, no, that's what
These
I'm
people don't
saying.
love you.
Yeah, that's why we're like, we're the love we have, what we would do, like, because you have those brothers that are close, and then they get out, and very rarely, I mean, how many is the percentage that comes back and looks for you and looks out for you, and there's a
Well, who
percentage,
gives you a suit to you?
but it's not
Ain't nobody
common.
really. It's not. It's certain people,
Yeah.
you know, that have that heart, but they're not. They don't care. It's again like so. Let's say it's like a basketball team, right?
Hmm.
Let's say NBA, right? So the NBA has how many teams? Let's say 25 teams, right?
Hmm.
Now, at the end of the day, you have these teams, and it's the goal is to win. To for what? What's the main goal of a team? To win a Super Bowl, to win a championship, to win those medals,
Right.
because it's like bragging rights. It's like, even for women, you
Right.
have basketball women, so it's like the like this feeling. You used to play basketball, right?
Yeah.
What was
Hmm.
that feeling that you got when you guys won a game? If
We
did you
were
guys even
we were the
win a
yes,
game?
we
Did you
won a
even?
game. I was the
No,
best
you didn't.
forward
You
in
shot
all
the
of it.
basketball. No, no.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's why
was.
you made a basket for another person, right?
Oh,
For the other
that
team.
was an inside private conversation, but yes. No, but you feel
Uh,
like you're like, we're the best. Like, we're the best.
so so that's how it is with gangs. Like our goal is to be the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the way that you become the best is through, again, like, oh, them dudes are crazy. Oh, them dudes do killings, or oh, them dudes got bodies, or
Hmm.
as the craziest, the more respect you get. And that's how it is with again, with it's just a different type of lifestyle. It's almost the same thing as you see out there in the world,
Right.
but it's just a different lifestyle. It's a stupid lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a very stupid lifestyle.
And
It's
it's
very
hard.
stupid.
It's hard though, because again, you're in it, and you know and that's what I think about a lot, because I've always told you, I will never tell you how to survive in there, and I never have, and I never would. And I get the logic to the extent of, I
There's no even
understand.
logic though.
Uh-huh.
There's no logic in it. There isn't no logic. It's like you just fall in love. For me, it's just falling in love with the whole, like, being a gang member. Like, I just wanted to be a gang member. I wanted to literally. I'm living my dream, and that's sad. That's why I tell Jaylene all the time, like, I'm living my dream, bro. Like,
Right.
I am. But when you come to realize it's freaking stupid, like all these years lost and all these years. But again, at the end of the day, this is why I always go back to it, and I don't go into that deep rabbit hole, right? Where it's like, damn, why did I do it? Like, I had to go through this to know God.
Right.
This has dragged me into loving God. I'm not gonna die not knowing how to have a father. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Like, I'm not gonna go wherever I'm gonna go after this life, you know, not knowing how to submit to authority, not knowing how to submit to a father, not knowing how to submit to, my wife, my daughters, my moms, our family, the boys, like, you know, being able to, how do you? serve my family, bro. Like number one, and serving God, our Father, and serving people that He puts in our lives. Like, dude, I am so blessed, bro. Like to be able to feel that, you know. What about
Yeah.
if I never knew that?
Right.
What about if we die tomorrow and not know how to, you know, serve other people? Meaning, like I've always had a good heart, so off top, but the level of, the supernatural, like God,
Mm-hmm.
like bro, like that right there, like it makes everything okay. Like I'll do this again, you know, all through the sacrifice that I put my mom through. Just really think about my mom, putting my mom through all these years. I've literally robbed her from her own child,
Yeah.
because of the decisions that I've made. And at the end of the day, we make these decisions. Nobody nobody makes these decisions for us because yeah, you have you know, the people that like your big homies, right? That will tell you, hey, go do that, right? Now you have the choice if you either do that or you don't.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And again, we make that decision to be like, all right, I'm gonna go do it. Like, I'm gonna go handle that. Don't trip. Like, I got
Right.
you. Like, I got it. Like, I'm gonna go put in work for this, for the cause. Parentheses.
Right. And that's what we
But
say
now
too
it's
is like what is the reward in that? I mean, except for
there's
like
no reward. There's
yeah,
nothing
nothing.
because at the end of the day, you're just gonna be a memory.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. You're right. Just a memory. I remember when. Remember when. Remember that one time.
There's gonna be one. Yeah, remember that homie? That homie took off on. It's called war stories that we tell here. Like,
We have our war stories
that,
out here, but it's in the visiting room. We got our own as prison wives. Our war story is a lot different.
it's small minds. Like we, it's like we honestly, it's like we really. That's why my mom when she like that's why it always hits home. Like she would always tell me, but like we, how we always talk about like, okay, well if you're gonna tell me, show me. Just don't tell me.
Right.
And it's like, you know, you, you gotta start. You gotta love yourself before others could love you. And that's you have to love yourself more than just wanting this, bro. But you see, lifers have a whole different mindset too.
Yeah.
You know, like even it's a trip, right? Right. Everybody has their own charge and their own time to serve prison, right? Even though we're all in prison, we still have our mindset is different. You get what I'm saying? Because there's people that are serving life. There's people that have a possibility. There's people that don't have no possibilities. Or people are going home within a year, a month, 2 years, 3 years, 15 years. You know, so the mindset is kind of different too.
Yeah. And
And the way that they move,
I think it's sad the ones that do a long time. Well, any amount of time. But, and then they go home and then go right
they
back.
come right back.
Yeah. And it's like, people say
And you
that
might think
as
like, why? Right?
yeah, yeah. Or they kind of are like, well, uh,
Because we
you
haven't
know,
developed. It's
yeah,
development.
yeah,
You have to develop. Humans have to develop. You know what I'm saying? We have to develop. Our mind has to develop. Just like how our body naturally develops. Our mind, you have to develop it.
right.
You get what I'm saying? Like the way that we learn how to walk, like that was through the mind, like seeing the visual, teaching something how to walk. You get what I mean? Our body's gonna naturally develop. We don't think it and it develops.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It naturally does it for us.
Right.
You know, but your mind, you have to develop it. Like that's why you go to school and learn how to read, how to write, how to speak. You know, how to make your bed, how to be clean, how to be nice. That's our job, is to train our kids how to do what you have to do, how to push them, how to be ambition. What is ambition? Like, you could throw all these words, and you know what I mean. You have to teach your kids, homie. Like, again, they're the reflection of us.
Right.
Whatever our kids are doing is truly our reflection. It really is,
Yeah.
because it's you. You have to push your kids. You have to speak these things to your kids. And now you could live a life of like, poor me. Like, my parents were not there. My parents did, or you could be like, you know what? I'm gonna make something out of nothing,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna develop my own mind. I'm gonna get the knowledge. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna do this. And how do you do that? You look at somebody that's already done it, because if it's not in your life, you got to go out and look at it from another perspective. Find somebody you like, find somebody that's doing good, learn what they did, how they did it, and just do it.
Yeah. I mean, I would think it would be hard though. Like, I mean, you've done it obviously, and there's others that have, and you see some that come home and they're so successful as you will be, and all of that.
Very
But
successful.
it's very hard, I think, for some because again, that depression, that it just takes a lot of
You
strength to
have to make
kind
that
of,
decision.
yeah,
You
and
have to
and
make
then
that
it's like
decision.
the
You have to make that
motivation.
decision to want something better.
I would think the motivation for some who, especially those that don't have any family, don't have any support, like same as people out here. People out here, they don't have the love. They don't have
But you
nobody. Like
gain
they
that.
have nobody.
But you gain that. You gain that. You gain that. You know what I mean? You gained that. I've worked hard. I'm continuing to work hard in my marriage.
Right,
Like, I could have gone softball. I could have gone left, and you would have not even be here.
right,
I made that choice. I made that choice to put in the work, change my life, because I told you, let's go back to that. Let's go back to what I just told you. Is either we can fucking feel sorry for ourselves and be like, poor me, which is not gonna get you nowhere. Or
right.
you could be like, you know what? Yeah, this happened to me. There's a reason for this. There's a purpose.
Yeah,
Let's get it together. Let's start making, uh, again, I'm going to continue to better myself. I'm going to continue to push myself. And yes, it's hard. I get depression. I've been in those shoes. There's nothing that anybody in here that's gone through something that I've not gone through. I've
right.
gone through it. It
Yeah.
is, like I told you, I had to really dig deep inside of me to really pull that out
Hmm.
and be like, I'm not gonna fail. Like, and I told you that, like, we have this stigma. Oh, like, you see it all on the internet too. Oh, they're in prison. They don't need no love. Let them rot. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they think of us. And me, I want to break that stigma of like, dude, there are some real people here.
Yep.
It's just that, you know, we kind of burn our own bridges because of the lifestyle that we live. But you could refurnish that. You could reestablish that. You could redemption. You
Yeah.
could redo all that. Like, yes, you were this person, but look at it now. And
Yeah.
again, once I started loving myself, like, and loving myself was not putting myself in harm ways.
Hmm.
You start to attract people back into your life. Your mom, your sister, your daughter that you have not spoke for years, and all that, because you are loving yourself now and not putting yourself through the harm and through all that fire. People start to love you and start to see, like, okay, well, he's not going to hurt me no more
Hmm.
because he's making the right decisions. One of the things that I've always been like, you know like like, you hurt your loved ones. Like, how the hell do I hurt my loved ones? I'm the one doing time.
Right.
But because you love me, I'm hurting you in that sense. And not only that, but I'm robbing myself from you, from my
Yeah.
daughters, from my kids, from our moms,
Yeah.
from having that.
Well, yeah. And I think it's hard for people to think too, like, again, why we need God is they think the mistakes they made have to stay with them always, or that, they are only that mistake. And what we have learned clearly from God is just like, dude, like we've all made them. There's nobody that has not made a mistake, and there's not one person who hasn't done wrong, or one person that hasn't done something that they should be in prison for too. Like, we just didn't get caught. Like, we are all, guilty of these things in our life, but with God,
We
it's
all live
like,
in sin.
huh?
We all live in sin
Yeah. And
until we start
it's
forgiving ourselves.
forgiving ourselves and knowing that we can be and are forgiven with God, and He can restore anything. And that relationship you thought could never be restored, God will restore it,
Mm-hmm.
like hands down.
There you go.
The